You're looking live at the White House right now. The president is now back home in D.C. after his whirlwind 8-day overseas trip, his first since taking office.
We've got a shot of the president and first lady arriving home overnight. The president called his first foreign trip a home run, but he is returning to face some fastballs on many fronts.
None faster, however, than the Russia investigation. Questions continuing to mount. The newly appointed special counsel, Robert Mueller, is now at work in his D.C. office. Overnight, sources telling ABC News Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas that Mueller, known as a dogged lawman, is already putting in long hours.
Those sources also say Mueller is going to want to talk to every member of Team Trump who communicated with the Russians during the campaign and during the transition. That will almost certainly include Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner, who, according to recent reports, allegedly tried to set up a back-channel communication with Russian officials.
We do have team coverage this morning as the president considers a staff shakeup. Martha Raddatz is standing by in D.C., but we're going to start with ABC's David Wright, who's at the White House for us this morning. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Paula. Good morning, Dan. You know, the president is riding high from that big foreign trip, but as he arrives back here at home, he's going to face a bit of a reality check. The drumbeat of news about the Russia investigation has only gotten more intense since he's been gone, and now his closest advisor, Jared Kushner, is likely to face some questions. The president is just back from a trip he scores as an unqualified success.
I think we hit a home run no matter where we are.
Now that he's back, he has some tough questions to face. The FBI wants to know why Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, met in December with the Russian ambassador and retired Lieutenant General Mike Flynn. Sources familiar with the meetings tell ABC News that Kushner wanted to open a back channel on the U.S. response to Syria and other policy matters. But Kushner's contact with the Russians raised eyebrows because it came right after U.S. intelligence agencies accused Russia of meddling in the November election.
What manner of ignorance, chaos, hubris, suspicion, contempt would you have to think that doing this with the Russian ambassador was a good or an appropriate idea?
Law enforcement and intelligence sources tell ABC News the FBI wants to know whether his reaching out to the Russians was the result of inexperience or something more. That said, sources familiar with the Russia investigation say Kushner is not a target, but they do hope he can provide some insights. Trump's inner circle continues to dismiss the Russia investigation as a witch hunt. The president's son, Eric, was on Fox News last night.
I think they're going so extreme in so many cases. I think they're losing a lot of credibility, and I think that's really resonating with Americans.
Just a few days ago, Eric and his elder brother, Don Jr., who now run the Trump family businesses, met with GOP leaders for a 2-hour strategy session. Meanwhile, the White House now has some breathing room to reset the agenda. The House and Senate not in session this week, so it'll be some time before fired FBI Director James Comey gives his side of the story. The White House is also hoping to build on the momentum from the foreign trip. Among other things, the White House is hinting that the U.S. may withdraw from the Paris Treaty on Climate Change after all, despite lots of pressure from the Pope and many others on this foreign trip to stay in. Dan and Paula?
And the president said he may make a decision on that in the coming week. David, thank you. Let's bring in now ABC News Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz, who's also in Washington, where she's going to be hosting this week later this morning. Martha, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. I want to talk about Pierre Thomas and his email to us overnight. He's the ABC News Chief Justice Correspondent, and I'm quoting overnight from his email. Law enforcement and intelligence officials are perplexed that a top advisor to the president-elect was looking to secretly communicate with Russia just months after the U.S. intelligence community said that Russia was responsible for trying to meddle in the election. So you've covered foreign affairs for years. Can you think of a reason why an incoming official would want to set up this kind of back channel?
Well, I can imagine a situation where someone would set up a back channel, but not someone who's not in government, not someone who did not have a security clearance, and not speaking to the Russians, who, as David Wright just said, were accused by all our intelligence agencies of meddling in our election. So why you would want to back channel then, I do not know. I know sources from the White House are saying they wanted to talk about Syria. The other thing here, Dan and Paula, is those conversations that Kislyak had with the Russians were the conversations that were monitored. He had to know those were monitored. Jared Kushner had not yet set up a back channel, so you would think that he would know that Kislyak would go right to Russian officials and talk about what he wanted to do. So I don't have an explanation for this, but I'm sure they'll get to the bottom of it.
That's why some people are skeptical as to that reporting, too. Martha, so there are reports of possible shakeups with top aides, including lawyers, to vet President Trump's tweets. Is this a president admitting that he needs to do things better?
We'll certainly see what happens in the coming weeks, but lots of talk about a shakeup with his press and communications office. Obviously, his numbers are not great. His approval rating is not great. I think the president is concerned about getting the message out that he wants to get out. And of course, the press shop and the communications people were concerned about those tweets, but it's especially interesting if they have lawyers now looking at those tweets. And that certainly has to have something to do with the investigation right now.
President Trump called his first foreign trip a home run, as we reported. In your view, how did he do?
Well, as a reporter, I'm going to say right now, he had no press briefing. So from the view of the reporters, that was a pretty tough trip for them to try to get the president to talk anytime they could. But in the Mideast, I would say he was very successful. He reached out in Saudi Arabia. He reached out to those Muslim leaders. In NATO, a little bit of a different story. I think you saw a lot of grumpy NATO allies not really wanting to be lectured at by President Trump.
Martha, you always hit a home run for us. Just wanted to let you know. Thanks for your analysis. And we know you have a busy show, so we're going to let you go. Martha has a busy show coming up this morning. She's going to go one-on-one with Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly about the terror threat after the Manchester bombing. Plus, House Intelligence Committee ranking member Congressman Adam Schiff discusses the latest on the Russia investigation. That's all coming up on This Week right here on ABC with Martha. Look forward to that.